to the enemy. Words have power, but actions speak louder. Pretend to be free till you die a slave, a soldier in the desert searching for a ghost in the cave. For the corporation, I run out of patience, sick of seeing troops sink to die for your lives. Spending dollars in debt, we holler in protest till we have your arrest. We will not rest, and we know what you did that day. Kill your own citizens to advance your ways. All my real patriots stand up and say 9/11 was a...
Welcome back, guys. Paul, during the break, we were talking about Freedom Palooza, and we actually promoted it for like a month or two. We had the commercial going on that Payday Monsanto would put together. You guys had a pretty big outdoor event. How did it go out there in Pennsylvania?
For first year, it was pretty cool because we had some great speakers and some great bands. Huh?
Oh, JJ was out there, right? You were out there with him, right, JJ?
Hmm?
Didn't you go out there yourself?
I parked the cars.
You went. And
Yes, we did, brother.
So you were staff. You actually worked.
Yeah, it's the first time I didn't have staff surround me and escort me out.
That's kind
Dude,
of
that was great, man.
How you got any more big events like that coming up?
Well, we're going to shoot for next year and maybe make it a 3-day festival, same place. The owner was really happy with us. We got this place nicer than anybody else that rented it.
Oh, yeah?
Oh, that's cool.
Plus, we ate at his restaurant, too.
Yeah. Johnny Mac and Grill, or Johnny Mac's American Grill, he was really chill. He provided the food for the fest.
That's cool.
It was a great event.
So it's going to be like a bigger event next year?
God willing, yeah, brother. You know, we're
going to start promoting it now.
Wow.
Well, that's actually a good thing. It's better to, that way you got a year to hype it up and a year to work out and adjust everything. That's cool. You're going to have speakers and everything again. You have any upcoming gigs or anything? Are you playing anywhere?
Yeah, another one that I believe James is going to join us at is up in New Hampshire, Jaffrey, called Live Free or Die Festival. And we'll be playing...
They had cannons there last year.
Yeah, they're pretty cool, man.
Are they... What kind of... is it like a multi-day festival or is it like a one-day event up there?
It's like a 2-3 day event. They have something downtown, and then they have bands for a couple days and nights up at the lodge. Yeah, look up Mike Coutu, Coutu, and Live Free or Die Fest. And I think if you live in the Quad State area, please make it out. It's a great event.
That's
awesome.
awesome.
It's a true First Amendment event.
Same thing, bands and speakers and stuff like that?
Not so many speakers when the bands are playing, but the speakers are down in the town below, and that's
that's cool. It's
Saturday
actually like two separate events. So you have like
Yes.
speakers and then you have the bands playing their own thing. That's even better because then people can see the speakers and then go chill out and see the bands.
Yeah,
Exactly.
the band. It was cool. Both formats were cool. At Freedom Palooza, they had band, speaker, which was great. It all came off without a hitch. There was a lot of good speakers. James
Well, that's
Rabbit
actually a
band,
good way
Jim
to have.
Condit.
That's a good thing to have because you get, you have the band come on and get everybody riled up and hyped up because music is one of the only things that makes both sides of the human brain fire and function at the same time.
And that's it. And after a good speaker, a band like POKERFACE, Paul and the boys, Brett and Dennis, they put on one of the best shows. And I've seen several of their shows, many of their shows, and I believe they did. They had one of their best performances there. And then out at the Live Free or Die Festival, the bands are at night, and it's around a camping area, so you can camp there. I had a great time last time, and like I said, they had cannons, man, freaking cannons. Everybody there was open carry. It was a great time. There was no shootings. There were no fights.
But that's why, because everybody was open carry and armed. So, an armed society is a polite society, dude. If everybody's carrying a gun, you're not going to have beer muscles. You're not going to have people mouthing off. You're not going to have. I mean, if somebody gets too drunk, if there's beer and high copious amounts of alcohol involved, maybe that moron shouldn't have a gun on him anyway. But
three other people with guns will make sure he stays in check.
Well, exactly. That's the point.
There's always going to be.
If he gets out of hand, you can have somebody go over and be like, "Yo, you got to relax." And it's not really the gun that does it. You know what I'm saying? If the guy did something bad and shot somebody, it wouldn't be the gun's fault. You know, I said this 1,000 times. Spoons don't make people fat, and pencils don't misspell words. So how do guns kill people?
Exactly.
It's the person kills the person. And if you took the gun out of their hand, they would use a screwdriver, a rock. What happens if the guy didn't have a gun and he still drank the same copious amounts of alcohol, but nobody else has a gun, right? Nobody's armed, and homeboy picks up a rock and starts smashing people's heads in with it. Well, now it's going to be hard to stop him because now you got to go find a rock or something bigger, and then you have to find a couple people to go find rocks. Whereas if everybody just had a gun, that wouldn't happen to begin with because the guy would know better.
Well, you'd be able to protect yourself from somebody that did. They're never going to get rid of all the guns, guys. That's the problem. All they're going to do is make people who follow the laws or who obey and who have respect, defenseless.
Well, you see, that's why I don't agree with gun control. You know what the perfect gun control is? The person's taught how to use it, and the severity of a weapon and what could happen if you play with it or do something wrong with it. End of story. That's gun control. You teach them to control the gun when they're shooting and how to aim it, and to always be sure that if they draw their weapon, you don't just flash it around and everything else. I grew up in a house that had guns in it, and I knew where my father's guns were. Most of them were locked up, but he kept one in the nightstand. I knew it was there. I knew not to touch it because my father would sit down and expose it to me, And I'm sure you had the same. You sound like you had the same kind of upbringing where like your parents weren't afraid to show you stuff like that. Correct, Paul? Like were you shown guns when you were a kid?
6 years old on my grandfather's farm. My older brothers were plinking cans, and the first time they ever put a 22 in my hand, and I had a blast, man. But they showed me how to, be respectful of it, and I treated my BB gun the same way when I was out with my brothers and didn't have real firepower. So, when you're taught properly and correctly, or you're taught the respect of it, then you don't do stupid stuff unless you purposely want to hurt somebody. But again, it could be a 5-gallon bucket of water you can drown them in.
Exactly. You could pick up a pail, fill it up with water, take somebody and force their head into it and kill them because you would cut off their air supply. What are you going to do? Ban 5-gallon pails and, water? I mean, it's just it's asinine when people come out with, we need to ban guns. Look, the guns didn't do it. Maybe we should approach the behavior. Maybe we should figure out why they're doing it. Why?
Maybe you shouldn't run your mouth unless, you shouldn't just walk around trying to impose your will on people. Because that's when you end up having to back your own play, when you're out there trying to impose your will.
That, and their whole system and, the way they've engineered society is creating the problem, and they know this. They know this. Look, these people are like social engineers. They know what they're doing, They know that by putting out the propaganda, like we were talking about before, the programming in movies and stuff, not only is the race baiting, it's also, hate anybody that likes the Second Amendment, hate anybody with any right wing, if you want to call it that, or conservative type values. Those people are bad. It's ridiculous. And now with this Oslo crap, they're using this myth that this guy's a Christian conservative when apparently even his friends are coming out and saying, no, this guy was definitely not a Christian. He was a Zionist. He had a lot of leftist ideology, which they're trying to deny. The same thing they did with Loeffler when he supposedly shot Giffords in the head. They did the same. Yeah, they did the same thing with him. They tried saying he was a truther, he was a Tea Party guy, and it turned out the guy was a complete liberal. He hated the Tea Party. How you know
what they're doing now? What's all over? What they're playing. They're showing the text messages from some of the kids. It's all over. They're really playing this thing to the hilt.
Of course they are. They're trying to scare the crap. It's the
sorry,
fear.
Mommy, I love you. Even though I'm bad sometimes, oh, well, don't worry. Just go hide. Go hide. Please, baby, I love you. And it's all over.
It's the fear. It's the fear. To quote a line from the movie V for Vendetta when he's talking to the two cops Okay, he's dressed up. He's got the mask on, and he's explaining the story to him. It's about halfway through the film. He's explaining to him what happened and how they engineered a false flag event in their own country. And he says the genius of the plan was the fear. The fear was the best part of the plan because that was the most powerful part. That was how they got everybody to listen to what they wanted.
Tolerate outrageous
because they scared the crap out of them.
Concerning the attacks of September the 11th. Malicious lies.
Just your right talk radio network.
They use guys like this moron that you're listening to right here.
From the guilty.
People are always
Moron
me,
Bush.
Yo, Gemini,
we're going to break. We'll be right back. Stay tuned for the final segment. We're hanging out with Paul Topete of POKERFACE.
As I continue to blame the Knights Templar and the Hospitallers, the real reason New York lost their towers. Don't sit back or hesitate to react to the impact. Many taking a nap. In fact, they would fake an attack to make way for the Patriot Act.